I was under the assumption there was an unwritten rule that we all turn the clocks back on the same day. Come to find out, every country in the world does it whenever they want. Like, for example, Britain turned their clocks back yesterday on Halloween. Why? But even crazier, most of South America doesn't even do it. But this is where I draw the line. For the most part, daylight savings is not observed in Antarctica. What do you mean for the most part? My buddy just said not even the entire US turns them back. Arizona and Hawaii just don't do it? I now have no idea what time it is.
So this travel TikToker came to the realization that not every country does daylight savings time. I think the obvious question then to ask is why? Well, the reality is that daylight savings time actually has a lot of negative health impact. And almost every single health organization that has anything to do with sleep has actually come out firmly against daylight savings time. Now, a lot of people get the mistaken idea that it all has to do with the switch. And to some degree, it does. Because we know that when we switch from standard time to daylight time, there's a huge increase in heart attacks, car accidents, workplace accidents, and a litany of other problems that are associated with people not getting proper sleep. But what a lot of people don't realize is that these effects actually last all the way throughout daylight saving time. It's not actually just the switch that causes problems. It turns out that people have a chronotype. What a chronotype is, basically, is your preferred time of sleep that your body dictates. This is something that is biological and does not change over a short period of time. And while it does change as you grow older, like for example, we all know teenagers like to sleep in late, it doesn't change in such a short period of time. And it's not something you can ever really get used to, because it turns out your body doesn't really care what numbers on a clock. Your body mostly cares where the sun is at. But this is a big problem, because when we switch to daylight time, that means a ton of people are not getting proper sleep, because even if they're getting the correct amount of hours of sleep, it is not falling in their ideal window of sleep, and that significantly decreases the quality. We can even see this if you look at the western region versus the eastern region of different time zones. People living in the western region that are getting the sunrise later actually get worse sleep and have higher instances of chronic stress-related illnesses. That being because they're not getting as good of sleep. This all was made incredibly apparent the one year that the United States tried to completely get rid of the standard time and go to daylight time year-round. During the winter months, there were so many car accidents and huge problems that they literally changed back to standard time in the middle. And that's actually why a law was passed to allow states to get rid of the switch, but said that if they got rid of the switch, they would have to stay on standard time and would not be allowed to stay on daylight time year-round. So if this is true, and we know this, then why are there so many politicians that are asking for us to be on permanent daylight time? And this is where it gets interesting, and the answer is pretty obvious if you think about it. It turns out that there are business interests that really like daylight time. Now, why is that? It's a combination of thinking that there's going to be more tourism if people have more sunlight after they're done from work, and a belief that people are more likely to go out to retail outlets and shop if they have more sunlight hours after their workday. And this is the major reason why we're keeping around daylight time. And in fact, they keep lengthening the amount of daylight time that we have. And it's really, really infuriating. And it just goes to show that nothing is too small for there to be corruption involved. Even though we know the extreme negative health impacts of keeping daylight time around, we are still keeping it around because businesses think that they can make slightly more money. And politicians, when confronted with this reality, often jump to the line of, oh, it's the switch. It's the switch. It's the switch. Every scientific organization that has made some type of statement about this has been very clear that it is not the switch, and that standard time is objectively better than daylight time. And the health impacts are incredibly broad. I mean, think about how miserable your day is when you don't get enough sleep. And if you're not getting the right sleep for 9 months out of the year, then that can be a pretty big impact on your health, especially if it continues to happen over years and years. This is what is happening in the United States. But we're all forced to suffer the health impacts of this because retail outlets think that we're gonna spend more money if there's more daylight hours in the evening. And here's the real secret. There's not magically more daylight hours. That's just summertime versus wintertime. It turns out during the summer, there's more sunlight. The only difference is where you are waking up relative to when the sun rises. The reality is daylight time is just forcing everybody to wake up an hour earlier for like 9 months out of the year. And that has huge negative health impacts. So no, it's not just the switch. And yes, it is capitalism that is keeping you from getting a good night's sleep.
This is Ben Carollo with Rebel Headquarters. You can catch my show Galaxy Brain on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to stay up to date with my content, you can follow me at Benjamin Carollo on Twitter. And for those of you that might be wondering or have noticed, my pronouns are in fact she, her.